Hello and welcome to the first part of my time-lapse workflow walkthrough. Now there's a tongue twister. There's a couple of things to note. First is that although I'm dealing with time-lapse footage here, the tips and tricks that I show apply to any video editing. The second thing is that it's important to watch the parts in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you skip some parts, then the later parts that you watch might not make sense, and you're probably missing out on some of the tips and tricks that I show. So let's get going. In this first part, we're going to cover how to set up the project, how to import photos as a video sequence, and the correct sequence settings to give you the best quality and to enable a significant time-saving hack that I use quite a lot in my workflow. So let's get cracking. First thing to do, obviously, is to set up the new project. So we need to choose the folder that it's going to be saved to and then name it. Assuming you've got a reasonable graphics card, you need to have GPU acceleration selected rather than software only. Those I all leave at default. I'm not using HDR footage, so it's as simple as that to start off. Next job is going into the media browser, selecting the folder where your footage is, in which case I've got these two folders of photographs. Just as an aside, you can change the view from icon view to list view down at the bottom there. Now these were shot on the DJI Mini 2 in JPEG format using a 2-second interval. With hindsight, it probably would have been easier to just video the whole sunrise, and then I'd have had more flexibility on changing the speed of the footage, but that's how I shot it, so live and learn. In order to import photos as a video sequence, you can't use the normal process of clicking on them down here. Normally you would select your photos and import. However, that will import them as single photos. What you have to do is go up to File and Import. Click on the first photo. Make sure image, so you don't select them all. If you select them all, then image sequence disappears. Rather strange, but that's how it is. Click on the first photo, make sure that box is checked, and then open. And then it brings them in as a video, in this case 15 seconds long. Now the drone split it into two folders, so I then need to import the second folder. Next job is to create a new sequence. New sequence. You can pretty much select anything from here because we'll change the sequence settings. I'll name the sequence just to keep things tidy. Then come up to sequence settings. I chose ProRes RAW. That what you actually pick here doesn't matter too much because we're going to change all of these settings. I'm choosing 24 frames per second, frame size of 3840 by 2160, square fields, Rec 709. This is probably the most important bit. Obviously frame rate, frame size, and I choose Apple ProRes because then when you're rendering previews, they're in an almost lossless format. Just to help with the quality, because I'm going to be doing some zoom effects and scaling in this, I want maximum bit depth and maximum render quality selected. What I'm going to do with these is change them from 30 frames per second to 24 before I put them into the timeline, just to avoid any issues with losing frames or duplicating frames. I can select both of these clips, right click, modify, interpret footage, And all you need to change on here is change the frame rate to 24 frames per second. And then as you can see, it's changed it down here, and it's changed the video length. So just drag that in. It's warning me of that because the frame size is different. These photos are in 12 megapixel. So I want to keep the existing settings. A little keyboard shortcut. We'll drag these in and we've got 9 minutes of timeline showing, whereas we're only using just under 30 seconds. If you hit the / key next to the shift in the bottom left corner, it expands, it zooms in to fit your project into the view rather than you having to play around with the sliders.